I never meant to see her like that, but once I did, it rewired something in me I can't undo. It started quietly, almost like it didn't matter. Just a Sunday afternoon in late September, golden light cutting through the kitchen window, dust floating in the air like time had slowed down. I was sitting at the counter, sipping on coffee I didn't even like, while Mrs. Lane moved around in a loose sweater and soft jeans, barefoot, humming something under her breath. I'd known her since I was 14. She was always Alex's mom, funny, sharp, never too strict, always the one who remembered your birthday or made sure you didn't leave her house hungry. Back then, I never saw her as anything more than the lady who drove us to practice and made killer grilled cheese. But I'm not 14 anymore. Now I'm 24, out of college, and back in town trying to piece my life together after a job loss I'm still too proud to admit stung the hell out of me. Alex was overseas for work, and Mrs. Lane, Emily, offered to let me stay in their guest room for a couple weeks until I got back on my feet. That's how it began. Harmless. Or so I told myself. That afternoon, she was making tea. Nothing special. Just turning, reaching, pouring. But I couldn't stop watching her hands, the way they moved, confident and unhurried. There was a kind of peace about her that made everything else feel louder in comparison. And maybe that's why I kept coming back to the kitchen. Not for the coffee. Not even for the comfort. But for her. She caught me looking, once. Just a flick of her eyes over her shoulder. Nothing said, but I know she felt it. The air changed. Slowed. So, she said, not turning fully, "What are you thinking about so hard over there?" I hesitated. Shrugged. Just stuff. Her mouth curved, but her eyes stayed still. "You always were a terrible liar." I smiled, and looked down at my cup like it held answers. There was a pause. Not awkward. Not quite. Just tight. And then she did it, said the thing that cracked the dam wide open. "If you're going to look at me like that," she said, soft but sure, "you might as well go ahead." My head snapped up. She was standing there, tea in hand, one brow raised, not teasing, but not pulling away either. There was a beat of silence so sharp it hummed. "Emily," I started. "I know," she said, stepping closer. "You don't have to say it." But I wanted to. God, I wanted to. I saw her then, not just as someone's mom or someone older, but as a woman. One who had laughed and ached and maybe had been just as lonely as I was. And in that second, something passed between us that wasn't supposed to exist. Not in that house. Not in that kitchen. Not between us. Her hand brushed the counter near mine, and my fingers twitched, aching to reach but afraid to move. She leaned in, voice quiet. "I'm not fragile," she said. And before I could answer, before I could even breathe, the doorbell rang. The doorbell shattered the moment like a stone through glass. Emily flinched, stepped back, the warmth between us sucked away as fast as it had sparked. I cleared my throat and stood, trying to look casual as she moved to the door. I already knew who it was, her neighbor, Carol, the one who always needed something. A cup of sugar. Help reaching the top shelf. Gossip she pretended was concern. I stayed in the kitchen, fingers drumming the side of my mug, pretending not to be shaken. But I was. That look in her eyes before the bell rang, like she saw me. Not as a guest. Not as Alex's friend. But as a man. And I'd seen her too. Really seen her. When she came back, she smiled like nothing had happened, but her hands trembled slightly when she set her tea down. I caught that. I catch everything now. We sat in a silence neither of us tried to break, each pretending to be focused on our drinks. My thoughts looped and circled. I'd had flings. People my age. Girls who posted everything online and ghosted before sunrise. But none of them stuck. None of them made me feel like there was something worth staying for. Emily had been married once, years ago. Her ex left when Alex was still in middle school, ran off with someone younger, someone less tired. She never talked about it unless asked, but once, late at night, she said, "You don't ever forget the feeling of being replaced before you're even finished becoming yourself." I'd never forgotten that line. And here I was, 24, staying in her house, her son's friend since childhood. She'd changed my bandages when I scraped my knees. Watched me stumble through puberty and high school heartbreaks. I knew the history. I felt the line we weren't supposed to cross. But the way she looked at me now, something had shifted. I wasn't a boy in her eyes anymore. Still, I couldn't say it. Couldn't say I thought about her at night. Couldn't say how I noticed every detail, the way she rubbed her thumb across the rim of her glass when she was thinking, how she hummed to herself when she thought no one was listening, how lonely she looked when the house got too quiet. Instead, I said, "Do you ever miss him?" She glanced up, eyes sharp. "Alex." No. Your ex. A long pause. Sometimes I miss who I thought he was. But not him. We sat with that honesty. I think you deserve more, I said quietly. Her eyes held mine. For once, she didn't look away. So do you, she replied. I didn't know what to do with that. My throat tightened. We heard a faint roll of thunder outside. The kind that doesn't startle but sinks into your chest. She stood to close the window behind me, and as she passed, her fingers brushed my shoulder. Not an accident. Not a mistake. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And in that stillness, she stayed just a second too long. Just long enough to know we both felt it. The next night, it almost happened. We were watching some old movie on the couch, one of those black and white ones she loved, and I pretended to appreciate. Rain tapped against the windows, and the whole house felt like it was holding its breath. We sat close. Not touching, not saying anything. But the space between us had shrunk into something fragile and loaded. Her foot brushed mine. Neither of us moved. I turned to look at her. She was already looking at me. That was it. That was the moment. I could feel her breath, taste the quiet around us. My hand shifted, barely, resting on the cushion between us, and she didn't pull away. Her lips parted just a little. And then my phone lit up. Alex, just landed. Home in 15. I froze. She saw it over my shoulder. Her whole body stiffened. Then she stood too fast. I'll get some more tea, she said, already halfway to the kitchen. 15 minutes. That's all we had left before everything became real again. Before her son walked through the door, and I was just the guest sleeping down the hall. I followed her in, heart thudding. Emily, no, she said, not looking at me. Don't. I wasn't going to say anything stupid, I muttered. She turned, eyes fierce. That's the problem. You don't say stupid things. You say true things. Things I'm not supposed to hear. Her voice cracked at the edges, and I hated that I was the reason. We didn't do anything, I said, softly. But I wanted to. She stepped closer, shaking her head, but she didn't back away. This is wrong. You know that. I know it looks wrong, but it doesn't feel wrong. A silence dropped between us again, heavier this time. She whispered, if he finds out, he won't, I said. Because nothing's happened. Yet, she replied. We stood inches apart. The hum of the fridge, the rain, my own pulse. I could hear it all. She reached up, barely touched my jaw with her fingertips. God, what are we doing? We're standing in a kitchen, I whispered, trying not to fall apart. And then a headlights washed across the window. A car door slammed. Shit, I said. Emily stepped back, smoothing her sweater, wiping at her eyes. Go. Your room. Now. I hesitated. Please, she said, voice breaking. Don't make this harder. I slipped out, hard hammering, just as the front door opened. Alex's voice echoed through the house. Mom. Kitchen. She called, light and easy, like nothing had cracked. From my room, I heard them hug, heard him laugh, heard her ask about his flight. Her voice didn't even shake. But mine did, because I still felt her touch on my face. And I knew we were in this now, whether we wanted to be or not. The house felt different with Alex home. Louder. Sharper. Like every moment had to be filtered through the lie we were trying to keep standing. Emily barely looked at me now. When she did, it was quick, guilt flashing like a warning light. I played it cool. Smiled when I had to. Laughed at Alex's stories. Ate dinner like I wasn't losing my mind. But every night, I heard her footsteps down the hall. Pausing at my door. Never knocking. Tonight, I couldn't take it anymore. I came back late, pretending I went out with friends. Alex was already in bed. The house was dark except for the soft glow from the living room. She was there, sitting on the edge of the couch. Alone. Barefoot. Her sweater hanging off one shoulder like she didn't even notice. She didn't hear me at first. I watched her for a second. The way she held herself, so still, like if she moved too fast, she'd shatter. Can't sleep? I asked, stepping into the light. She turned. And there it was, relief, like she'd been waiting. I shouldn't be here, I said. I should leave. Find a place. Crash on someone's couch. She shook her head. Don't say that. Why? Because it's true. She looked down. Because I don't want you to. That cracked me open. Then say it. I said. Say you want me to stay. Say this isn't just in my head. She didn't speak. You think I haven't noticed? Every glance. Every time you walk out of a room when I walk in. Like being near me hurts. It does, she snapped, standing now. You think this is easy? That I can just pretend like this isn't happening? Then don't pretend. She stared at me, breathing hard. You're my son's best friend. I'm not a kid. I've known you since you were 14. And I've wanted you since I was 20. She went quiet. That silenced her. My voice softened. You think I don't feel it every second I'm near you? You think I don't see how lonely you are when the lights go off and the house goes quiet? Her hands clenched into fists. Don't do this. I already am. And then I said it. The one thing I'd kept locked inside for weeks. I don't care what it looks like. I care what it is. And this, us, it's real. She turned away, gripping the edge of the couch. I stepped closer, slow. You don't have to want me back, I said. But you don't get to pretend it's not there. Her breath caught. Her shoulders tensed. I reached out, barely touching her wrist. She didn't pull away. And then, Alex's voice from down the hall. Mom? You still up? She froze. I did too. And in that breathless second, her hand turned, fingers curling into mine. She didn't let go. The next morning, everything changed. I woke to the sharp sound of voices. Not loud, but tense. Serious. The kind of tone that makes your stomach tighten before you even understand why. I opened my door just a crack. Alex stood in the hallway, phone in hand, staring at his mom. His face was pale. Her arms were crossed tightly across her chest. She wasn't meeting his eyes. I found the messages, he said. Silence. I stepped back into the shadows. My pulse spiked. What messages? I went to text you last night from your tablet, Alex continued. And your messages were open. I wasn't looking for anything. I swear. But I saw his name. And what you said. My stomach dropped. Emily's voice was low. That was private. You called him more than a guest, Mom. His voice cracked. What does that even mean? I didn't move. Didn't breathe. She didn't answer. Alex's voice went quieter, hurt now, not angry. You knew how much I looked up to him. You knew what he meant to me. And you still. He didn't finish the sentence. He just shook his head like he was trying to clear it. I didn't plan this, she said finally. You think I wanted this to happen? He looked at her, and his voice turned cold. Is it still happening? That was the question neither of us wanted asked. And she didn't deny it. He scoffed, ran a hand through his hair. Jesus, Mom. I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped into the hallway. His eyes locked on mine instantly. Everything in them changed. You, he said, his voice a weapon now. You knew what this would do. You knew this would mess everything up. I didn't plan it either, I said quietly. He laughed, bitter, hollow. Don't flatter yourself. She was lonely. You were convenient. I flinched, but took it. I deserved it. He turned to Emily. Was it ever going to stop? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. That silence said more than a confession ever could. And then he said something that cracked the floor beneath all of us. I'm moving out. I can't be here. Emily stepped forward. Alex, no, he snapped. You made your choice. Both of you did. He walked past me, shoved his bag into his room, and slammed the door. Emily didn't chase after him. She just stood there, staring at nothing. I moved toward her, slowly. Emily, she turned. And her face, God, it was shattered. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I know. I never wanted to lose him. And I never wanted to come between you. She looked at me, tears standing in her eyes. You already did. That hit harder than anything Alex said. She wiped at her face, breathing ragged. I need time. Alone. Please. I nodded. She walked past me, into her room, and shut the door without looking back. And for the first time since this started, I didn't know if she'd open it again. 3 days passed. Silence hung in the house like smoke. Alex left without saying goodbye. His room was stripped clean by morning. A key on the counter. No note. Just absence. Emily barely left her bedroom. I heard her sometimes, footsteps, a drawer opening, the kettle whistling and going ignored. I waited, gave her space. But each hour stretched longer, like we were moving in different timelines, and I was running out of time to fix any of it. On the 4th night, I stood outside her door. Fist raised. Knuckles hovering. I knocked. Nothing. Then softly, come in. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, sweater sleeves pulled over her hands, eyes swollen and rimmed red. She looked up when I stepped inside, but didn't say anything. I sat in the chair across from her. Not too close. Close enough to be real. I never wanted to hurt him, I said. I know. Her voice was paper thin. But I did. She nodded, eyes cast down. And I hurt you too. She looked at me then. You didn't mean to. No. But that doesn't make it better. Silence stretched between us. I leaned forward. I don't regret what we felt. But I regret how we lived it. In the dark, with all that hiding, we turned something honest into something shameful. Her jaw tightened. She wiped her face, failing to stop the tears. I was scared. I was too. She gave a broken laugh. You? You were always so sure. Like none of this touched you. I shook my head. Every second of it did. I was just better at pretending. She looked at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. The walls between us had cracked, and now we were both standing in the wreckage, bare. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. I want the truth, I said. Even if it's goodbye. Even if it rips. She swallowed hard. The truth is, I wanted something that made me feel alive again. And with you, I did. I nodded. Same here. But, she whispered, I don't know if I can carry the weight of it. Of him walking away. Of always being the mistake. You weren't a mistake, I said, firm. You were the first thing that ever felt right. She stood, walked to the window, watching the night press against the glass. I think I need time to rebuild what I lost, she said. Without me. She turned. Not without. Just, not with you right now. It landed like a punch. But I didn't argue. Instead, I stood, moved to the door. Do you think you'll come find me? I asked, hand on the frame. She didn't smile, but there was softness in her eyes. If I do, she said, I want it to be in the open. No secrets. No hiding. Just truth. I nodded once. Then I walked out of the room. And for the first time since all of this began, I let her watch me go. 6 months later, I saw her again. It was a random Sunday. I was standing in line at the farmer's market, holding a coffee I didn't need and a bag of apples I wasn't sure I'd eat. That's when I heard her laugh. Soft, low, familiar. I turned. She was at a flower stand, holding a bundle of white lilies. Hair pulled back, sunglasses perched on her head. She looked good. Not just beautiful, settled. Like she'd finally exhaled. She saw me before I could decide whether to walk over or walk away. She smiled. Small, honest. Not loaded. I smiled back. Hi, she said, stepping closer. Hey. We didn't hug. We didn't need to. How have you been? She asked. Better, I said. You? She nodded. Getting there. There was a pause. Not awkward. Just full. I miss him, she said. But we talk. Text sometimes. He's coming home for the holidays. That's good, I said. I'm glad. She looked at me for a long moment. He's okay. Still a little hurt. But I think he understands now. That it wasn't about betrayal. It was about timing. And truth. I nodded. It always was. She shifted the flowers in her arms. I'm not here to start something again. I know. But I wanted to tell you. What we had. It mattered. I still think about it. My throat tightened, but I smiled. Me too. We stood there in the sun, surrounded by strangers and summer fruit and a breeze that didn't care who we used to be. I never expected it to go the way it did, she said. Me neither, I replied. But I'm grateful, she said. You reminded me I was still alive. You reminded me I could love someone and not lose myself. That hit her. She blinked quickly and smiled, like she didn't trust the tears not to come. Then she reached out, touched my wrist. Just once. I hope you find someone who sees you the way you saw me. You too, I said. Even more. We said goodbye after that. No promises. No cliffhangers. Just two people walking away lighter than they arrived. That night, I sat in my apartment, messy, small, my own, and thought about what we'd been. What we'd tried to be. Sometimes love doesn't show up the way you expect. Sometimes it isn't meant to last forever. Sometimes it's just meant to wake you up. And maybe that's enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Romance with a twist? Second chances? Forbidden love? Let me know. Your next favorite story could be one line away.